Surfers discovered the Sunshine Coast more than 50 years ago, when cresting every coastal hill was an adventure, because who knew what perfect lineup lay beyond it? Hayden Kenny drove down to Noosa from the family farm in 1957 and could not believe what he saw.
I thought, now this is something else. Not knowing that it'd end up where it is today, but I surfed it on my own for pretty much 4 years. Drive down to Noosa and here's this great geological layout of points and beach, and first time there was a little bit of rough surf down here, I hoofed it back to Noosa and christened the board there. You know, as I said, if you want to claim to be first to surf a place, you better first establish that you had a board and when you had that board, so the dates and everything line up. And here's from the 26th of May in 1957, when I inquired about the availability of the board. The 19th of September 1957, and he's given me a letter from him to say that the board's ready and it can be air freighted by TAA for £2 5 shillings. That's $4.50 air freight from Sydney to Brisbane for a surfboard. You can't even send a thong for that price now. And because then it arrived and I picked it up, and from that day on I started surfing it. So that was September 1957. Well, that is the photo of the surfboard, first surfboard in the state. There's the documentation to prove it. If someone can get something that precedes that, well then they can have the title. The thought of sharks was very prominent. The boards were buoyant, so you could knee paddle them, but it was a lonely existence, but that was overtaken, I think, just by the fact of what was on around you. You know, national park, all the trees come down to the ocean, and very little development as such.
Noosa in the early 60s was early Australia, I mean it was 60s Australia. It was just laid back and nothing around and simple and complex, and it was heaven. The first time I came to surf Noosa was in late 1959 or early 1960, I'm not sure, but it was December or January, with this old couple, Ma and Pa Bendel. Pa was a World War II fighter pilot from Canada, but he took up surfing when he was about 40, 45, and we went, who's this really old dude, you know? He brought me up here one day, and we pulled into the car park up there, and the surf club then was a tin shed. There was hardly, just a few old houses along the beach. We went out here and we surfed from the point. There was one guy in the surf club, he came out with us. So me and Ma and Pa and this guy paddled out here. At one point that day, Pa and I paddled in National Park and got a beautiful wave all the way down through Johnson's, and as I was paddling back out, admiring this beautiful headland with not a soul around, I remember feeling a bit lonely. I actually wish there were a few other people around. And surfing National, uncrowded on 8-foot days, that's about as good as it can get. With 2 or 3 guys out and surfing not for 5 or 6 hours, but for 8, 9 hours in the day, come in, drink some water, go back out again, drink water from the creek in the national park, and then race around and go off the ledge again and surf all day. But now, it's still heaven. Nothing's changed except the coffee's got better and the crowds have got far, far bigger.
Back in the 60s, when Bob McTavish and his merry men surfed these perfect uncrowded points, Noosa got very lucky. Within the community, there was a growing number of people who had come to live in an aquatic wonderland, a place of rocky bays, white sandy beaches, pristine waterways, and a magnificent coastal wilderness just across the river. They'd seen what happened on the Gold Coast, and they were prepared to fight to stop it happening here.
People don't realise how close we've been to losing all of this. The developers have been at the gates on several occasions, but it's only been the strength of those people who are willing to stand up and fight for our coastline who prevented us from suffering the death of 1,000 McMansions.
The battle to protect Noosa and the other great surf breaks off the Sunshine Coast is ongoing, and surfers and surfing have played a big part in showing the world why this unique coastline is worth the fight. In 2014, surfers of all stripes, from clubbies to hipsters, grommets to grandpas, got together to campaign for a Noosa National Surfing Reserve.
The northern end at Sunshine is amazing. It's our little summer spot, you know, with the northerlies. It's protected in the northerlies, and it's just a good little quality beach break. It kind of wedges off the rock. It's more of a defined left-hander.
The Sunshine Coast is definitely underrated with swell size, and you know, whenever I go somewhere and people ask me where I'm from, it's like, oh, I'm from Sunshine Coast, Noosa, and they're like, oh, crowds, Mal's, you know, like. But I've, you know, travelled the world a little bit this year, and I still haven't found a better beach break than that. I mean, that's some of the most perfect waves I've ever seen in my life, and it's just down the road from my house, so those days are really special.
I actually haven't ever surfed Paradise, but it's a pretty cool little bay. Like, I have been around there, but it's just one of those. It's a bit of a hike over the hill, and a bit of a sketchy little jump off the rocks. But it's a good little spot. It's a little secret spot. Not many crew go around there, but it's pretty cool. A-Bay gets good. A-Bay gets good. It picks up the swell a lot more, so when our beaches are sort of small, everyone sort of heads around there, but still it's a nice 15-20 minute walk through the national park.
The walk is amazing in itself. I mean, it's every time I walk through it, I just think how lucky I am to live in such an amazing place. And then you pop out to this long stretch of beach. It's actually a nudist beach, which is pretty funny actually. I don't actually think it's a nudist beach, but like the nudists have kind of like claimed it as a nudist beach.
Waves get unreal, picks the swell up a bit more, and yeah, you can surf it in the northerlies and in the southerlies, so it's really good.
Whenever Sunshine's small, you know, 1 to 2 foot, you can always, you know, walk around through the national park, and you'll always get that little bit extra for putting in that more effort, I think, you know, and yeah, it picks up a lot more swell, I think, yeah.
Granite's pretty funny. It's a really good wave, but it's kind of my claim to fame. I've never been there, never surfed granite, and I like to keep it that way now because I'm 33. Never walked around there. Always get to teacher and get stuck and don't go around there. So I've never surfed granite, heard many stories. It picks up the most swell out of all the points. You know, when First Point and the Cove and national parks are not even breaking, granite can still be shoulder high and has good waves. Tea tree's a pretty special wave. Tea tree's, I think, the second best point. For me, First Point's the best. I think it breaks the best, but tea tree's always got more swell. On a decent swell, it tubes behind the rock on the outside, so it gives you that sort of intense rust, kind of like a sitting behind the rock at Snapper. And then you come around the corner and it just lines up, and it is just not, some days just not a drop of water out of place. It's got 2 barrel sections on it. Once you get past the finger rock, it's amazing. And then you just get to go all the way to the shore and you just lay down the biggest turns you can do, or if it's small, you just nose ride for days. But
Tea tree is definitely my favourite, I think. There's a little part just around the rocks, and it's like a kind of slabby, barrely wave, and the local shortboarders kind of dominate that, which is cool.
Yeah, so the Boiling Pot in National Park is a good wave too, but it's, for me, I only surf there when the swell's pumping. You know, cyclone swells is tea tree starts to get too out of control and the swells doesn't wrap into the bait, kind of comes straight past and just hits the boiling pot. So like cyclone time, sort of January, February, March, when we get in those cyclones, the boiling pot just turns on. You want to get into the wave early. It's steep and intense and just tubes in front of the rock ledge. And you know, it doesn't really come into its own until it's sort of 6-8 feet. And you can surf it at 4 feet, but it's too close to the rocks and you get washed up. Not very often does it happen, but when the swell's lined up and the sand's perfect, you can get a ride from the boiling pot back to Main Beach. So you kind of go through the boiling pot, National Park, little cove, straight across into First Point and then onto the Main Beach. So, you know, I've only done it once. I've got to First Point a lot of times, but you get to the top of First Point and it gets really grindy and gnarly and you can't get across. But I've got across and got all the way to the beach. It'd have to be 700-800 metre ride, and by the end you're not doing anything except for just trying to make it, because all you want to do is claim it that you got all the way through to the beach. See, Johnson's and Little Cove, it's kind of like it's the same wave, but Johnson's is at the top of the point and it's the bottom end of National Car Park, where on its day is pretty special. It just doesn't get big, but it just gets below sea level, these little sand grinders, kind of like a Kira. The Cove is fun. The Cove's kind of not really a shortboard wave, it's more where guys are riding longboards, and it's kind of the new logger spot where all the loggers are surfing. It just goes at a perfect speed for surfing, like on your log and nose riding. It's just that you lock in and it's just a perfect logging wave. Yeah, for me, First Point is by far the most special wave to me in the world. It's my home spot, and I think I might be biased, but I think it's by far the best point out of all of them. It's always the smallest by far, but the sand is phenomenal. It's always been like that. Breaks on the outside on a little boily suck rock, and take off on that suck rock, and then it's just flawless. The first bit's steep and fast and racy. When we got a bit of a swell, you can get tubed on the outside, but it's just one of those spots where you kind of race down the line, nose right through that section, and then it just slows up a little bit. The wave gets a little bit fuller, and that's where you can just lay some good turns, and then again it speeds off and straight on the nose or racing down the line, top turns. And the wave's got so much variety. You can get tube, you can open up on a shortboard and do turns. It grinds down the bank, and it's by no means a boring soft wave. It packs punch like every other point, but it's just so perfect. It's always breaks, I feel, so much better than everywhere else. So for me, it's just always, you know, my kids grew up here on the beach, they've learned to surf here. I kind of learned to surf here with my dad, and you know, also just having the Noosa Festival of Surfing, it's where I kind of got my first big professional win. And there's just so many memories for me at First Point. It's home, best wave in the world by far, and water's warm, and yeah, it's just one of those spots. Yeah, down between the rock walls, it's just one of those spots that for me it's just another beach break. The banks there's just always waves down there. You can surf it in a southerly, westerly, nor'wester, it's got a little bump on it, but it's just one of those spots that every day you can go down there on high tide and you'll get a surf. The river mouth's good. The river mouth it's fickle, it's hot and cold, you're just depending on the banks, but every time there's a swell, everyone's always down there checking it.
Yeah, we actually had one absolutely crazy day at the river mouth. Like, it was just stars aligned. I don't think it'll ever be like it again, but it was just literally some of the best waves I've ever seen and anyone's ever seen. We had people fly in from like different states just to look at it, and it was just like a mechanical wave, and it broke for about a week, and yeah, it was just absolutely phenomenal.
On the world stage, Noosa is a gem. The waves, there's still no place like it. Well, I don't know anywhere with a socially comfortable setup that's got 5 bays, one after the other, that all work in their different ways, and they're all high quality.
The point breaks cater for everyone, and we've got a lot of hidden kind of just amazing spots to surf. And you know, I think if people can time the right swell or something, they'll be blown away with the waves here.
The concept of a national surfing reserve is as much to remind ourselves as it is the rest of the world that these aren't our surf breaks, we just get to play on them for a while. And it's our duty of care to ensure that they're still around for future generations to enjoy.